Hey,
Hey guys.
hello, hello.
Hey everyone, welcome Krista.
Thank you.
Finally made it on my show. We
Yeah,
finally got you. Brandy's been on twice.
yeah.
And I'm always like, when are we getting Krista on? I got questions for her. Okay. So
I hopefully have answers for you.
let me introduce this topic real quick with a very quick story.
Hmm.
And I think you're familiar with the story, Krista, because you were there. Okay. Let's rewind back to September when you and I and the entire gang, we were all
Hmm.
in Texas,
Hmm.
right, for Josh's convention,
Yep,
right? That's where we all met.
yep.
And I think it was Sunday morning
Possibly.
I think it was Sunday morning where it was you, myself, Brandy, and Ryan, the
Right.
four of us. I think it was Ryan
Yep.
Edwards.
It was Ryan. Yeah.
We all went to Waffle House.
We sure did go to the Waffle House.
Yes, we did. I think, was it Brandy that forgot her wallet? And then we had to turn around and anyway,
Something.
yeah.
Something.
Anyway, we're sitting there eating breakfast, having our meal,
Hmm.
enjoying our waffles, just chit chatting. And
Yep.
then you had mentioned that you did Civil War reenactments. And
Hmm.
all of a sudden, my eyes got real wide. I was like, Krista.
Yep.
And I just stopped. You remember this, right? And I was like,
I do. I
I
do.
got some questions for you. Because a little background about me. Yeah, I'm a fan of history, but most of my history fandom is in like ancient history.
Hmm.
I wasn't that into American history until I did my first paranormal podcast show, Journey Through the Gate, a paranormal portal podcast with Cisco Murdoch. Guys, go
Hmm.
check that out. She's really into the Civil War. So I was a co-host on there for a short time, and she wanted to do a four-part series on the Civil
Okay.
War.
Hmm.
At that time, I didn't really know much about it, nor did I really, because I wasn't that wasn't my forte when it came to history.
Sure.
So I had to research the ever-loving bejesus out of that topic, right? So we did
Great.
our four-part series. It was really cool stuff. So now I know some stuff about the Civil War. So then when I found out that you did reenactments, I was
Hmm.
like, oh, I need to learn more about this. I need
Yeah.
to ask Krista some questions, and so here we are.
Yeah. So hopefully I can answer them for you.
Okay, so first and foremost, Civil War reenactment. Tell us
Mhm.
about it. Tell us about your time as a Civil War reenactor, like how you got into it, why you got into it, what it's like. Just walk
Okay.
through it.
So I got into the Civil War reenacting. I've had horses my whole life, and
Mhm.
my husband and I, we raised Missouri Foxtrotter horses. So we did the showing thing for a long time, showing, breeding, selling, the whole nine yards. And it just got really political. And yet
Really?
he wanted something still to do with the horses that he could, enjoy himself. So I was into the ghost hunting, and a friend of mine that did the ghost hunting with me, she was a Civil War reenactor. And she's like, hey, why don't you guys come to a battle? I'm like, well, I don't know about that. I was like, I'm not wearing those funky clothes. And she goes, oh, I got you, get you all fixed up. And
Hmm.
I was like, I don't know. I don't do dresses. If people that know me know, I don't wear a dress. Even to my son's wedding, I had a pantsuit.
Really?
So I'm like, I don't know. So she ended up talking us into it. And we went to our first Civil War battle and we were addicted. I mean, it's just, I've always loved history.
Hmm.
So this was just a way that, we could partake in it and see what happened. So when we do the Civil War reenactments, we actually redo the battles. So if the Confederate won this battle, then that's who come out on top.
Hmm.
Or if the Union won this battle, then that's who come out on top. And we did a lot of stuff with the guerrillas too. So it was literally just the exact battles. That's how we fought them and we did.
So it was that first event you went to where you were just like, I need to be a part of this. And then
Yeah,
this, I guess, the second event you went to, you went out and got yourself a dress.
I did. There's actually it's called the sutlers is what
Okay.
they call the people who sell reenactment clothing. And a lot of the shows have, or a lot of the shows, a lot of the reenactments, the sutlers are there. So you can go and you can purchase clothing and items from them. So that's what I did. I bought several and they're not cheap.
And you said that you don't do dresses, but Krista, you sent me some pictures, and can I show one right now
It
that you
shows
sent?
whatever you want. So that there is myself and my friend Kathy. That was a
Mhm.
ball gown. So that's the thing with these reenactments. So you would have the daytime battles, but then in the evening times there was the ball. So then you
Mm,
change out of your everyday clothes and you put
that's
on
pretty cool.
the full hoops and the whole 9 yards.
Oh, I didn't know
There's
that.
Yeah, so that actually I personally didn't do it, but underneath that dress there was bloomers, there was a hoop, there's all kinds of things under there, a corset. They wore a
Damn.
lot of
So
clothes
you
back
actually
then.
wore the dress like they actually wore it back then.
Yes.
So during that time when you were preparing the dress, getting it, putting it on, were you thinking like, man, those poor ass women back in the day, they had to wear this shit all the time?
Heck yeah, because you know what? Most of our reenactments were in the summertime. We don't do winter ones, very
Yeah.
rarely, and they're hot. These clothes are
Yeah.
hot. A lot of them is made of wool, and they're
Ooh,
hot. So if you ever go to
ooh.
a reenactment battle and you see ladies swaying, believe it or not, and I don't mean to be graphic, however, it puts air up there and it cools you off.
Freaky Geek
So,
says, Krista, you're not old enough to know what bloomers are.
well, I did for Civil War. I have some.
It's Rob.
Yeah. Hey, Rob.
I gotta say though, Krista, you dress up you dress up pretty nice. Here's
Well,
that other
thank
picture.
you. That was all day of sweating. Yep, that was just a regular uh, a battle during the day. And actually, what I had on there was a day dress, and then behind was our tent. So that's how we lived back in the day. They had the A-frame tents,
Hmm.
and then they had that that is considered that's called a wall tent, and then the tarp on the front of it is called a fly. So that was our
Whoa.
little
That was like those were the battlefield tents, right? Because I remember
yep.
seeing pictures of those of like,
Oh yeah,
when they show of like the battlefields back in
yeah.
the day, and especially like that's where they would do like a lot of the makeshift like hospitals,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Our part had we also had that's another one.
Hmm.
I'm there in the red dress, polka
There you
dotted
are.
dress. But we also had a medical brigade and we would do full on. So when a soldier was wounded out in the field, they would come, they would bring them to the medical tent
Hmm.
and then they would reenact, say they lost a limb. And it was pretty graphic. I mean, like they have fake blood, the whole 9 yards.
Whoa.
They really the people that I did this with really got into it. And um, if your bedding in your tent wasn't period correct, you had to keep your tent tied up so people couldn't look in. And mine, I had all
Oh,
modern stuff. I didn't let anybody look inside my tent,
yeah.
but we had to keep our tent tied up and just so people, the public, didn't see anything modern.
Like they don't want to be seeing like iPhones on the table and stuff,
No,
right?
no
Yeah.
phones, no phones. Like, and if you smoked cigarettes, you had to go hide because unless you had brown cigarettes or you had scars, you could smoke them out in public.
Oh, you would
It
have to
just
wear, yeah, you would even like you would have to smoke the period accurate cigarettes, right? Like,
everything. Oh yeah,
damn.
yeah. It was
So they're
different.
real strict about that, huh?
Very strict. Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. I,
yeah,
I actually I wouldn't have it any other way. I guess if I were part
hmm
of that, I'd be like, yeah, I
yeah,
want it to be strict.
yeah. I mean, it's history, and you want to teach people and show people the right history, and this is
Mhm.
what they did back in the day. So respect to all of our forefathers, because they had it rough, you know.
So, how are these events exactly organized? Like, who runs these events? Like, is it more for like the general viewing public to come out, or is it
hmm
like people to participate and it's more of a closed thing? Like,
They're
how does
they're
it?
they're kind of like clubs. However, they're all over. All mostly all of the states that have had battles
Mhm.
have reenacting, and they have some sort of I guess hierarchy. And you go through every year. They'll usually every 2 years they'll skip a year because they'll
Mhm.
redo the battles that happened in that particular state or that location, and
Hmm.
even some of the skirmishes. So. Then they all decide, there's like a board and then anybody can go to it if you're in there, you have to pay your dues and stuff. I
Mhm.
think it wasn't very much. It's only like $20 a year or something. It was cheap, but you could go in there and you could be a voice and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, just like any other club.
What was that one real big Civil War movie that came out back in the 90s? What was it? Glory? I don't think it was Glory. It was the other one.
Glory. There was North and South. There were several.
Which one was the one with Martin Sheen?
I don't remember.
Anyway, it was one of those where they were talking about how, a lot of those extras were actual Civil War reenactors,
Mhm.
right? Just because they were so good at keeping things authentic.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like I said, all of the clothes we bought was all period correct. Women's clothes, kids' clothes, adult clothes. The only thing that I had that was not period correct, but they hid under my dress, was my boots.
Your boots.
My boots. But now, like my husband and the girls, they had period correct clothes, and even the girls even had period correct socks that came out of the top of their boots.
They had to wear like wool socks like in the middle of the summertime. That must have been torturous.
It's awful. I'm telling you, the clothing is hot, and I had, after starting that, all new respect for the people who lived in the southern states in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, even like up until the 20s, I remember seeing pictures of like people back then.
Yeah,
those women had to wear those like real big just to go grocery shopping.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you're just going to the post office. Why you gotta be dressing up in a 3-piece suit?
Right. Well, and so some of the poor people, some of these women would wear their clothing, I mean, they didn't have washers and dryers back then. So they would wear their clothing for a week or more. And then, so they would put their apron on during the day to use, for cooking their daily chores, and then just take their apron off at night. And that was also their nightgown. So they never came out of their clothes sometimes for a week or more.
Jesus, people must have stunk back then.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So, and then the women, which is really, I always laughed at this. So if you ever look back, you will never see a woman's ankles showing at a battle or anything like that. You were considered, I guess, a hoe, back then if you showed your ankles. Yeah.
Ankles, people.
Yeah, your ankles. Yeah, it was all kinds of, yeah.
So during the battles, like, what are the women doing?
So while the battles are going on, usually we're out there, we're watching the reenactment because most everybody else is too. But a lot of times we're sitting in camp. A lot of them, I'm not real crafty, so a lot of camps have period correct games out, and the public can come and try stuff out, or they're doing the cooking, and you can kind of see what's cooking and how it's being cooked. And
so you're eating like period correct food too, even.
A lot of times we do.
You're eating that. What was that cracker thing that they used to eat back then?
Honestly, though, the food wasn't bad. I got to tell you, the food's not bad.
What's the period correct food like? Like, what kind of stuff are they eating?
Well, like we've had like rabbit stew, biscuits, good old like fried green tomatoes.
I never tried rabbit stew. I liked it. That sounds kind of good though.
Yeah, it's just like a stew, but add rabbit instead of beef or anything like that.
I've never had fried green tomatoes in my life, by the way.
They're pretty good. You don't know what you're missing. Yeah, they're pretty good. And then we would do, like the desserts. A lot of it was cobblers and things like that.
I remember I was watching, because there was this one historical like food channel that I really like, where he does like foods from like the Revolutionary War or like the Pirate Days, and he would show like, here's what a typical Civil War soldier would eat, and like here's what their typical rations were, because I'm interested in that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So apparently it turns out Civil War soldiers would get like hardtack. It was basically like a cracker brick.
Yeah.
And then they'd be given a ration of like pig lard.
Yeah.
So apparently they would take the butts of their rifles and like smash up the hardtack, and then they would like just cook it into lard, and maybe sometimes even use the lard itself as like a dip.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that shit looks like it hurts your teeth.
Yeah, not very good food at all.
No.
So, like in the evenings, though, we would eat really well because usually people had to leave camp by 5 p.m. So all of us
Mhm.
reenactors were hanging around. We all knew everybody, so it's like a big slumber party. So then we can let our hair down, get out of our period clothing, and we eat good. We eat normal food. Then it's a lot of it's barbecue and.
So it's like a hangout.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because these people become your family. You're with them all the
Hmm.
time.
Now, what about the ball? Like when you said when you were dressed up, what are those like? Like what happens there?
So a lot of it, what we know today is like line dancing. A lot
Mhm.
of the dances were kind of like a square dance, line dance type thing. I never learned any of the dances, but a lot of people did, and that's what was played. A lot of fiddles and things like that. And then now some of the reenactments, in the evenings, they would open the ball up to the public where they could come in and they could watch the ball.
Mhm.
There's one battle in particular that we went to, and the public could come in and see everybody all dressed up, and
Hmm.
and that's fun. And there's like, people think, there's at that, there's no drinking or
No?
anything like that. Not at the
Oh.
ball, no.
Oh, I thought they would have like period correct like alcohol.
Nope, nope. There was none of that, and it's just
That's not till
it's
afterwards when everyone puts on their regular clothes.
right.
Then people go out for
That's
drinks.
when you can go back to camp and you can break open your beer or whatever it is that you like to drink.
Oh,
Yeah. Once the
interesting.
public's gone, if the public's around, you do nothing modern day at all. Nothing.
Okay, so when the public's around, it's more like you're performers than you're
Yes.
showmen. So
And
you
the
have to,
true
yeah.
serious reenactors, they would even talk the way they talked back then, and say things about the day, like, or somebody, a kid might come up and say, hey, do you talk on a phone, and they'd be like, well, what's a phone, things like that. The true
Mhm.
serious reenactors, we did it for fun, wasn't hardcore for us.
How do you decide who fights on the Union side and who fights on the Confederate side? Like, how do they decide that?
It's whoever you join up with. So we were part of the Southwest Cavalry Brigade,
Mhm.
and they were Confederate, but we also were part of the Crooked River Posse. And so we did also the guerrilla fighting, which Jesse and Frank James
Mhm.
and Bloody Bill Anderson and all of them fought in. So we did both. But like if you're at a reenactment, so we try to portray that particular battle as well as we can.
Yeah.
So say the Union was short a few people, be it foot soldiers or cavalry. They would try to recruit some Confederate soldiers to go dress in blue and go fight, or vice versa. And that's a big long-standing thing. Like, oh, I can't go do that, but it's all fun and games, and you're there for the public. And so, a lot of our Confederate soldier guys broke down, then they would go over and dress in blue and fight on that side.
Because they're from states that traditionally fought on the
Yeah,
Confederate
and a
side.
lot
So
of them, I'm telling you, they're strict, legit. Like, a lot of them are members of like the Daughters of the Confederacy,
Mhm.
Sons of the Confederacy to this day. Yeah, where their relatives, were strictly Confederate soldiers, and they live and breathe them.
So were you like hardcore into the Civil War before you first heard about these reenactments and decided to go to an event, or was it because of the events that made you more obsessed with the Civil War?
I've always been interested in like American history,
Hmm.
and I always thought that kind of stuff was cool until, like I said, my friend Trina dragged me to my first battle, and I was like, wow, I'm hooked, because it's really like I can't even describe the feelings when you hear that gunfire and those cannons going off. Like,
Yeah.
we're there for fun, but these people were there back in the day, and it was real. It was going on. Their loved ones were getting killed, and things like that out there in the field. And it's very overwhelming to actually go and watch a battle. It really is.
Yeah, actually, last night when in order to mentally prepare for myself for this show last night, I was actually looking up old pictures
Hmm.
of like the actual battlefields and like the piles of bodies and stuff.
Yeah.
And damn. You know?
And that's the thing. You just showed the picture of the bodies out there.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too. You know, a lot of times, even coming off the horses, you know, there's good riders that ride in the cavalry because you have to be, you know, like my horse, she can stand. Now they do have, I call them earplugs, but they put these little balls down in the horse's ears to help with the noise. But my one horse lady, she has stood between two cannons while they were firing, and it's loud, and she'll stand there, which, you know, it takes a special kind of horse too, because not all horses are made for that. You know, horses are flight animals in general anyway. And for a horse to
Didn't
do
they
that,
really
a lot of
breed that
training.
into them and
What's
train
that?
them? Didn't they really train them back then like that just to
Oh
get
yeah,
used
they
to
did.
them?
They did. They
Yeah.
had some well-trained horses. But the people I know that do cavalry and work their horses, you know, like this horse is getting older, so we need to replace this horse. So the one in particular, I call him Captain Bob, and he's got a bunch of horses that he trains. But he'll blast like heavy metal music or something in his barn while the horses are in there, just to get them used to the loud noises. Or he'll play cannon fire and things like that. And you know, it takes an experienced rider when you first take that horse out to your first battle.
And I couldn't help but notice the number of horses there. That must have been logistically pretty tough to do.
That's not even all the horses. That picture there is not even all of the horses that were there that day.
So what are the logistics like behind that?
So all of those horses there. So this is one of the, as we were as guerrillas at this battle.
Yeah.
And that's why you see they're all dressed. Some are dressed in Union, some are dressed like with the guerrilla. But yeah, there was another. They were standing in line waiting. What they do is you'll have this side of horses will be standing over here, and you've got this side over here. And when it's time to charge, they start charging. You know, and they're shooting their guns, and they're, you know, they've got swords, the whole 9 yards.
I mean, it just must be really difficult to like just bring all those. I mean, yeah, back then it was easier, but in this modern age when it's all highways and cars, to get all those horses to that one location like that.
People just, you know, they have horse trailers and stuff, and they bring them, and you know, it's kind of funny. The first battle my horse ever did, she had no training. However, she's just a very easygoing horse, not a spooky horse at all. And Ray took her right into battle, and she did great. I thought for sure she'd blow up, because
you must have been nervous as hell.
What's that?
You must have been nervous as hell though, being like, well, I don't know how she's gonna do.
I had no idea how she was gonna do, and honestly, I think that horse loved it just as much as we did.
Really? It must have been interesting for the horses just to be able to run around with so many other horses they never met before, and they'd be like, "Oh, who's that guy?" It's like, you know, it'd be like taking your dog to the dog park,
right?
And they're just running around like, "Look at all these dogs," you know.
Pretty much, yeah. The horses really get into it too. They're just as much of the show as, you know, the artillery and the foot soldiers, you know.
Okay, now the artillery. Now, how is that handled? Like, who owns these cannons? How are they bringing? I mean, okay, they'll probably bring them out with trucks, but like, who owns these cannons? Like,
just different reenactors, and you know, cannons are not cheap at all.
They can't be.
No, they're not. And you know, they'll bring them out, and yeah, it's an expensive hobby.
So like one of the members, one of the reenactors would just randomly be like, "Oh, I got a cannon in my house. I'll bring it out for the event."
They probably started out as a foot soldier and then realized they liked the cannon thing, and they had money so they could go buy a cannon.
What the hell do you even buy a Civil War cannon like that?
A lot of people do.
You gotta have it made, I guess.
Oh, a lot of people do.
Jeez.
Freaky Geek asked if they can reuse cannonballs. No, they don't. They don't. And it's not actual. Okay, so like the fire with the cannon. So a lot of times we'll do. My husband's standing here. Let me ask him, what was that deal at night with the fireworks that we used to do out of the cannons? It was night fire.
It was night fire.
Yeah.
Load them up with gunpowder and.
Right, we would.
But not really fireworks. It's just gunpowder.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just gunpowder we'd shoot off at night, and same thing during the day. It's just gunpowder in those cannons, and then you shoot them out, and you know, yeah.
I want to try it. I want to go to one of these events.
Yeah. Come on, Donnie.
Yeah, I would stick out like such a sore thumb, wouldn't I?
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
But you're
You know
also
what
in
I
the
can
wrong
do?
state.
Oh no, I will play a Confederate soldier, but I'll be the guy who plays the headless body.
There
Because
you go.
you always need the guy who needs to play the dead
Right.
body on the battlefield. I'll be
Right.
one of the dead bodies. I'll
Well,
be all headless.
I honestly, you would be fine coming to a reenactment. A lot of people don't realize, like the Civil
Yeah.
War, they say it was started with slavery. It wasn't started because of slavery. It was started because the South didn't want to be controlled by the North. That's basically
Yeah.
what it was about. And then they used
They didn't want to
slavery
be
as an
told what to
excuse.
do or how to organize their
Right.
society, or they
Yep.
didn't want to have to deal with their fucking laws. Be like, oh, you're making our laws for us,
Right.
They didn't
And
like
there
to
was
put
a
them
lot
on
of
there.
black people that fought in the Civil War as well on both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you would be welcome at any reenactment.
Yeah, and that's not to downplay the importance of slavery and the history leading up to it, because there was that whole John Brown,
Mm-hmm.
that guy who kind of
Yeah.
went nuts and started like,
Yeah.
you know what I call him? I
What's
call
that?
him the first woke American.
There you go.
Yeah, that guy was psycho, man.
Yep.
That was an interesting ass story. If you don't know the story about John Brown, man, he started like executing people because he hated racism and slavery so much.
Yep.
I
True
mean,
story.
on the one hand, you kind of, you're kind of rooting for him, but on the other hand, you're just like, ooh, did you have to drag those people out of the cabin like that and execute them like
Right.
that? Come on, man. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating. One of the things that fascinated me the most about learning about the Civil War was the fact that everyone on both sides was expecting it to be over soon. Like when it first
Right.
broke out, everyone was expecting after the first couple battles or skirmishes to be like, it'll be over. We'll figure it out. Right.
And it
1
wasn't.
month later, they're like, okay, no, this will be the last battle. And then the war, like everyone thought that the war was going to be over soon. And this
Mhm.
went on for like 5 years.
Yeah. And people, and what really is amazing is people out of the same family. Some of the, children believed in the North values. Some of them
Mhm.
believed in the South values. So there was families that was tore apart. Brother was pitted against brother,
Yeah.
fighting these battles, just because of their different beliefs. And it's sad. It's very, very sad.
Well, there was that whole thing with General Robert E. Lee, when the war first broke out, because he had that big issue where he was like a military leader, like one of Lincoln's favorite
Mhm.
guys, right?
Yeah.
Because before they split, he was just working for the U.S. government as the military leader.
Right.
And now he's like, man, do I stay loyal to this institution that I've been fighting for my whole life, or do I stay loyal to the state of Virginia where I'm from?
Right. And Virginia, as we know, was a southern state.
And I think it was Glory, where it was like, some of the other generals that he was going up against were like guys he actually fought with.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were in the same regiment together, and now they're actually shooting at each other. That was like, yeah,
they were friends.
They came up in the academy together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary stuff, man. I'm telling you, I have, after doing reenacting, I have all respect for the men and women that lived back in the day. I truly do.
Yeah.
What they went through, not only physically, but mentally too,
It was tough times back then, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And just the clothes,
The clothes. I mean, that picture I saw. Wait, hold on. Let me bring that up again. When they're on this horse like this, right? I can't help but notice like the clothes that these guys are wearing, right?
Uh-huh.
They're wearing long sleeves, trousers, a vest over that, and a wool jacket over that. And what month is this? What time of year is this taking place?
That was the battle in Herman, and that was in the summer, so it was August.
And what are the summers like in Missouri?
Awful, humid. I mean, the summers during the day, the humidity can get 100-degree plus. I remember how when we were in Texas.
Yeah, but I'm not wearing a wool jacket. I was wearing like a tank
put a
top
wool
all
jacket
weekend.
on, that like how it was when we were at the Dogman conference.
Remember when we were hanging out with Ryan, but then Ryan would always wear his leather like vest.
Uh-huh.
And then like me, I'm outside dying because I'm not used to Texas heat.
Right.
I'm looking over at Ryan Edwards. I'm like, dude, how the fuck are you wearing that right now, man? He's wearing all long sleeves. He's got a leather vest on. And I'm like, do you not? And he's like, dude, I'm from San Antonio. We're used to this.
Yeah.
So I guess they got used to it, but man, I'm not used to heat.
Right.
I'm not built for heat. I'm built for cold.
Yeah. And like I said, the clothing is just so heavy and there's so many layers, especially, I mean, the men wore a lot of layers too, but the women had a lot of layers on underneath those dresses. People don't realize, it just wasn't the dress. And that, it's awful. It's awful.
It's like
and the thing too, what I find interesting about the men's clothing. So back in the day, so they would wear they might have striped vest with a polka dot shirt and striped pants on. And that was the thing back then, is that meant you had money. So when you had patterned clothing on, you could afford to buy clothes with patterns, not just solid colors. So people back then, that's why I always told Ray, just find something to wear that doesn't match.
Yeah, I can imagine, because they didn't care about that kind of stuff back then.
Right.
Or maybe that was the fashion.
Right. Sorry, I'm still trying to get over a cold.
Yeah, I heard. Sorry to hear that. Everyone's been sick around me. Jason's just getting over the flu. Everyone at work is half the people at work are all sick. There's something going around. I'm serious. But
sorry, I just asked for Kleenexes.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
So
all good. So I don't know. Give us your thoughts on. Give us your thoughts, Krista. Now, I want kind of curious. I want to pick your brain on this. No, we still got some time. What are your thoughts on Lincoln?
I think Lincoln, not a fan.
Not a fan.
No. Well, we already talked about what the war started, but Lincoln brought into the slave thing. Well, a lot of people don't realize, but he had lots of slaves himself. So to me, he was a hypocrite. Just my two thoughts. My two cents.
What I like to bring up is that during all this time, during the Civil War, I think there was at one point there was a riot that broke out in New York City. New York City back then was not the New York City we know, right? But there was a major riot and a revolt going on, lots of violence, right? People in the street going crazy. Lincoln dispatched a warship to New York City and actually had it fire on New York City. Only American person to do that.
Wow, I did not know that. Did not know that.
That's a little detail people like to overlook.
Right. People don't. Yeah. Lincoln wasn't, all he's cracked up to be.
And, all the European powers, they were all pro the Confederacy because they, a lot of these countries back then, they were still monarchies. They were still the old world, these noble families and, the aristocracy. And they thought that if the Confederate won, that would mean America would become more like them. Right. Culturally and socially. So they were rooting for them. You know who the Union's major ally was? And it's fucking ironic as hell when you think about it now. Russia.
Yeah.
It was Russia. They were the buddies of Lincoln. And I'm like, wow, man, things have changed, haven't they? But the other detail I found interesting was, people always say ultimately, the Union won. But when you actually look at the individual battles of the Civil War, if you count them up, which side won the most battles, the Confederacy won way more battles. If you're keeping score.
Right. That's true story. And there's a lot of, skirmishes that people don't even know about. There's a lot of roadside parks you'll go through and be skirmish of this, was held in 1864,
Yeah. Well, also a lot of it too was because it was most of the battles were the Union marching into the Confederate territory and trying to take, the Confederates were always on the defense side. So, they had home field advantage. The only real time that the Confederates tried to invade back was, Gettysburg, and we all know how that turned out. But yeah, if you look at the numbers of battles, the Confederates actually won more battles.
Yes.
And also, when you look at the details of these battles, the Union had some real dog shit military leaders.
That
They
they
had
did.
some real dog shit. I mean, some of them, you read the history about them, they're just like amazingly bad.
Right. Absolutely. I'm telling you, they
You're like,
had some.
this dude sucks. What are
Yep.
you doing?
And well, then they also had, the Union. They had the Jayhawks, the Jayhawkers. That would that was their guerrilla type.
I don't know much about them. Tell me about them.
So the guerrillas were groups of people. Both sides had them. The bushwhackers were was their nickname for the ones that fought for the Confederate.
Okay.
The
That was Jesse
Jayhawks.
James and them?
What's that?
That was like Jesse James and them?
That was Quantrell, Jesse James, Frank James.
They were called the
all them.
Bushwhackers?
Yes.
Okay.
And so they were a bunch of unruly, no laws. They were bad guys, in today's society. And they would, so just for instance, so Quantrell's Raiders, they would see that like the Union, there's a band of Union soldiers coming through, and they would attack them.
They would ambush them.
Yes. So they actually, Quantrell's Raiders, there was I wrote this here down just so I had the dates right. In September of 1861, the Union fought a battle, and it was the attack of Osceola, Missouri.
Okay.
And that was in 1861. Well, Quantrell's Raiders, they had friends that died in that battle. So for retaliation, they took over Lawrence, Kansas, and they burnt the town. It was literally 185 buildings, 160 men and kids were killed, women were killed.
Oh, they killed civilians? Damn.
Yes. Yes. And this was on August 21st of 1863. So almost 2 years after. So they were patient, they were patient. They waited for their mark and they were able to do it. So they were not some nice guys, I mean.
So their raids, were they on the behest of like the Confederate Army or like a Confederate general who said, I want you to ambush these men, or did they just do it on their own, like just kind of
a little of both?
Okay.
They would know like, hey, Quantrell was going to be here at this location, and they'd get word to him.
Do you think they were kind of like the old timey their version of special ops then? Like
pretty much. I would say so. The only difference is like these special ops, they were, the drunks, the unruly, the gunslingers, that had no mercy for killing anybody.
Well, I mean, they did have a lot of like spying and, double agents and, espionage and sabotage. Technically, you could consider John Wilkes Booth a spec ops.
Yeah.
Technically, counts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That guy was a character, by the way. I don't
know a lot about him except that he killed Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, that dude was a character. He was basically their version of Charlie Sheen. If you read about his career, and his life, he was their version of Charlie Sheen.
Yeah,
it's fascinating stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm really big time into like the guerrilla part of it too, just because a lot of those little skirmishes they happened here in Missouri. A lot of them aren't so well known, and
So what were the Union guerrillas like then, compared to like?
They were the same way.
They were the same way. They just did the same thing, but just the opposite.
And they did it for the Union side. They were the Jayhawkers. That's what they were known as. Yep. So, which is kind of funny because now today, like Kansas is, they have the college there in Lawrence. They have the Jayhawks, and it's just kind of funny that it was actually the bushwhackers that burned the town down. And that's still a touchy subject to this day if you talk to certain people in Lawrence, Kansas.
Well, yeah, I can imagine so. I mean, your ancestors got brutally murdered by their neighbors. It's pretty messed up when you think about it.
Right.
I mean, it's still messed up if it was like a foreign invader doing it to you, but
Mhm.
it's like, oh, we were neighbors before all this, and now.
Right, right, absolutely. And like I said, they just they weren't the nicest guys, as a lot of people know. Heard about Jesse James.
Yeah.
He wasn't such a good dude.
I mean, attacking soldiers is one thing, but doing that to civilians, that's inexcusable.
Mhm. Yep, and Frank and Jesse James were at the
Yeah.
at the Battle of Lawrence at that takeover.
Okay, so you said that you get pretty just sucked into this whole reenactment world, right?
Uh-huh.
But by the time you tried out the reenactment thing, you had already been pretty sucked in to the paranormal world, right?
Oh yeah,
You
I've
were
been to
already
for quite a while.
in it with the paranormal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compare to me what it's like to be sucked into the paranormal versus what it's like to be sucked into the Civil War reenactment actors. Like, what are the similarities and what are the differences?
Honestly, I'm all about the Civil War because a lot of those battlefields are haunted. So I get a double dose. I can do the
Oh,
reenacting, and then I can also do the
so
ghosting in the
so
nighttime, and we do.
they kind of like are concurrent with each other,
Hmm.
actually.
Yep.
Interesting. And there's probably a lot of like paranormal heads who are also pretty into the Civil War too, if you think about
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of people in the paranormal. That's
Oh,
yes. Yep. And a lot are, or if they're not, there's a lot of
hmm.
believers. There's also a lot of people that do reenacting that are big believers in Bigfoot and stuff like that too, because they do stay out in these fields, and a lot of them have had, encounters and stuff. So I've talked to people, that do reenacting that have had different encounters, not just the paranormal.
Tell me about an encounter you had or an experience you had then whilst on one of these out on these reenactments, I guess maybe at like night or something, or when everyone's
Okay.
camping.
Well, the battle that you played in the
Mhm.
beginning.
Yeah.
So that was the Battle of Centralia,
Mhm.
and haunted battlefield. I laid there and I listened to horses, and I got up and there wasn't any horses around.
Hmm.
We also that night, so I ran a EVP,
Mhm.
a recorder, and I picked up cannon fire in the middle of the night. There wasn't any cannons going off.
Like you heard it
On the EVP,
on the
on
EVP,
the recorder.
but you didn't hear it. But like,
Nope.
but so you played it back and there was cannon fire.
Yep.
Damn.
Yep. A lot of
Damn,
residual.
Krista.
A lot of residual at these battlefields,
Yeah.
And what was really cool on that battle that you showed, and I'll never forget this, because
Oh.
during the battle, the fighting, there were so many dragonflies. And I'm like, holy cow, a lot of times dragonflies can signify, loved ones or lost lives, that kind of thing. All these dragonflies just appeared out on the battlefield.
Damn.
But after the battle was over, they disappeared.
That could have been the spirits of the soldiers who were just there to spectate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freaky Geek's got a question. Let me show it for you. Krista, I have to ask, has anybody, I guess like other people that you were with, seen spirits during any reenactments?
Yeah, people have seen people walking and stuff like that. I personally have not. But yeah.
You saw the Gettysburg clip though, right?
Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot at the and heard a lot at the battlefields, and it's like I said, I enjoy going to them. Just over in Lexington, Missouri, there was the Battle of the Hemp Bales. And one place that we stayed at a lot, part of that battle was fought on those grounds. And there's a lot of hauntedness going on there, just out there at the horse ranch. You could see, there's a lot of ghosts from that time period.
So would you say your favorite, like if you had to do an actual, okay, not reenactment time, but paranormal investigation, Bigfoot investigation or paranormal or whatever, if you had to do that at a Civil War location, that would be your ideal spot then?
Yeah.
Like if you could have the chance to do an investigation of like Gettysburg at night.
That'd be awesome. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah. Have you been to Gettysburg?
I have not. Nope.
Krista, you gotta go.
I have friends that went to the 150th battle and went and they went to a lot of the different haunted locations and stuff out there. But yeah, I was not able to go.
Were you ever considering like going to like the Gettysburg Bash? You are aware of the Gettysburg Bash, right? That's the
I know.
big annual paranormal conference they have
Right.
at Gettysburg, where at night,
Uh-huh.
like all the people go and investigate the
Right.
battlefield.
Yeah.
You
I've
never?
never been, but I'd love to go.
I've been once.
I know you told me about this. We
Yeah,
had to talk about this.
it was pretty
You
cool.
told me about the bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I've been to Gettysburg a few times now because
Yeah.
Gettysburg is only an hour and a half drive from me.
Oh I
So like sometimes I would just go there randomly on the weekend and just walk around.
That's really cool.
It's pretty fucking awesome to be living so
Yeah.
close to Gettysburg.
Yep.
The other thing that so Gettysburg, as you can imagine, right?
Hmm.
A lot of the town around it's pretty affluent because
Yep.
that property is very expensive, right? So
Right.
because it's affluent, though, all the buildings, everything's clean, all the buildings are nice, right?
Uh-huh.
Restaurants are great.
Yep.
Parking is atrocious, though.
Is it?
Atrocious. But you would imagine, right? There's going to be a lot of like Civil War merchandise, like
Mhm.
Civil War shops, memorabilia shops, bookstores. They're everywhere. So it's like heaven if you're into Civil War.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is every other shop is also, they sell like ghost hunting stuff and
Oh yeah.
ghost stories of the Civil War and the ghost stories of Gettysburg. And then like in the downtown, like every other street corner, there's like a sign or a flyer to go on ghost tours.
Wow. I believe
This
that.
place is like Disneyland for ghost lovers.
Absolutely.
You know how like if you're a UFO head, you have to go to Roswell?
Right.
If you're a ghost head, you got to go to Gettysburg.
Yeah. Yep. It's on my bucket list. I am going to make it to Gettysburg in the next couple of years for sure.
I'm hoping maybe one of these days we can all meet up and go to the bash together.
That'd be awesome.
We could all hang out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Check out
That'd be fun.
Gettysburg.
That'd be great.
And then there's a paranormal convention during the daytime.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Well, the Kling brothers, they do an event too once a year up there in Gettysburg also. So that'd be a fun one too.
That would be a bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to end it here, guys, because Krista's got to go on to Barton's show. And I kind of want to watch Barton's show because that guest you guys were talking about last night on Rob's channel. And I'm like, that dude shot Dogman in the face. I need to listen to this.
Yeah.
So, Krista, you hurry up and get over on Barton's show so I can log off and sign on.
He'll be going live in 12 minutes. So.
Oh, and guys, also, yeah, if you're listening to this live, hop on to Barton's after we get off. But also at 10 o'clock Eastern, Daniel Diva's going to have Brandy on.
I don't think they're coming on tonight. I seen a text. I think that show got canceled only because I think Danielle lost power.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are they going to do a different show instead?
Not tonight, I don't believe.
Oh, really?
I don't believe so.
I could sub.
So, yeah.
I could be Asian Danielle.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that they were gonna do anything. So we've been promoting Bart a lot too. So
yeah, I like that guy. One of the things I do have to say about Bart is like on camera, he's so stoic and serious. Yeah. But when you meet him in person, he is like super nice.
He is.
He is like such a nice guy. He's like almost Ned Flanders levels of nice. Like he's just like he's like just a happy, positive, so nice. But then when you see him on the podcast, he's like, man, that dude's kind of dark.
Yeah, but he's not.
That dude is super nice. I couldn't believe how nice he was when I met him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Guys, we'll leave it at that. Don't worry, you'll be seeing more of Krista, and we're not done talking about the Civil War reenactments. Oh yeah, by the way, before we go, I want to leave you with this one last thought. I realized what I want to do if I ever go to a Civil War reenactment. I want to play a guy with like a time machine and be like, oh my God, I landed in the Civil War. Oh no.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm like the time traveler. And I'm like trying to like piece my time machine back together.
Right.
I'm like, I gotta get away from here.
That'd be awesome.
Fire. Okay, guys. I'll leave you at that. Peace out.
Yep. See y'all.
Okay.